Hello everyone, welcome back to Black Book Stacks. I am your host, Toshonda Sanders. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your likes, shares, and subscribes. It's been kind of a heavy week, what with the decision not to charge officers in Breonna Taylor's death, and the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg late last week. In the midst of that, and thinking about these things and trying to take good care of myself as I work and do other things and write and read, I have been reading Just Us by Claudia Rankine. Why can't I talk? And I loved Citizen, as I think a lot of people who are fans of Claudia Rankine did. She also wrote a play called The White Card, which I was not able to really get into. I still have it, so I may try to revisit it at some point. And now we have Just Us, which I read the digital version. I got an ARC by way of NetGalley, which I'm thankful for. So that made the reading experience a little challenging because of the layout of the book. It strikes me as being a very physical one that you should have, in part because the text is broken up by quotes that are taken out of the text and placed in further context. So there are also images, there's maybe the occasional poem, so the formatting made the reading experience a little bit challenging to read on my phone. That said, I saw, of course, because of the timing of the book, some parallels between it and Caste, namely that Claudia Rankine spends a lot of time, or what felt in the reading of it, a significant amount of time talking about white privilege and how that privilege is conveyed when she is traveling. So for instance, she spends time in first class, or on planes, presumably in places where white people do not expect to find her, specifically white men. And it just immediately drew my mind to Isabel Wilkerson's recounting of having trouble unloading her bag and essentially being pressed up on by a white man in a way that she knew and was aware that would not have happened to a white woman without a lot of protest. In Claudia Rankine's book, in Just Us, she writes about being married to a white man, and sort of also needing to unpack the white privilege of those around her, either strangers when she's traveling, or friends in various capacities. There are also a lot of statistics in the book, and sort of trivia, about the origins of white supremacy, and kind of mundane things like Barbie. I didn't realize that Barbie has its origins in a German cartoon that was hypersexual and also slightly problematic. I guess there was a character, I want to say Bilby or something like that, was so popular that for dates, German men would give their girlfriends or their paramours tiny replicas of this doll. So really interesting there. There's a whole section on what it means when Black women have blonde hair. There's a kind of hard to read section about the violence that is basically allowed to happen to young Black children, and there's a picture of I think there's more than one picture actually of police aggressively harming Black children. So there's a lot in it that is illuminating and thoughtful. Of course, there's a section, because we know from Citizen that Claudia Rankine is a tennis fan, at least a fan of Serena Williams. And, as an intellectual, and one of our foremost intellectuals at that, there is this engagement with Naomi Osaka and her identity and the ways that identity has been shaped or not by the impressions, the ways that people have written about her. And so that was an interesting thing to read. And I appreciated her take on anti-Blackness in Asia and among the Asian diaspora, which is very rarely discussed or talked about. And there was just a lot to like about the book. I kind of inhaled it because it is a NetGalley. It is on my NetGalley shelf, and so it was like set to expire. And then I also just felt like I really wanted to just finish it. I think maybe because of timing, and I think I said this about Transcendent Kingdom as well. Like, depending on when you read a book, like it may or may not be the best time or the ideal time for you to read that book. I'm not sure if I felt that way about Just Us. I mean, I think that we're in a time where there's like all this information that's always sort of thrust at us. And I appreciated the ways that Claudia Rankine unpacked a lot of those things. And also I wasn't necessarily sure that I was able to really receive her inquiry into race and white supremacy and how we perform either racist ideas or internalized anti-Blackness. It felt like maybe not the best time for me to be looking at that, but maybe there is no good time. And yeah, so anyway, a good book, really thoughtful, really interesting. I think, if you read the print version, you'll probably come away with a less disjointed experience, which is kind of what stopped me a little bit in my reading of it. If you're a Claudia Rankine fan and you read Just Us, or you have read it, I'd be curious to hear what your experience was with it. That was mine, and I appreciate you listening and watching. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.